This is Brett Steves with Summers Creative. We're going to talk about bamboo today and the airbrush. It's a popular finish for wall treatments. I use it a lot in Florida climates, and you can vary the colors and things to match a room. These are just some pictures you can pause on and have a look. They do whole walls very well. It's quite a nice look. Sells really well. I use it a lot to set as a background for some of my Trump Lloyd paintings. So let's get going. First, we're going to mix up a dark mix. It doesn't have to be jet black. It probably shouldn't be. And it doesn't have to be a straight edge, with tape or anything like that. What we're trying to do is space it about 1.5 inches apart, maybe 1 inch wide. You're only going to need 1/4 inch of it when you're done. And so it's like, don't sweat the small stuff. It's not going to be an issue. So we'll move along so you can see the whole thing done that way. Next, you mix up some bamboo color, in which you can decide for yourself. In this case, I'm doing kind of a tan. Um, as you can see in one of the earlier clips, sometimes you mix a little light sage into that tan on your brush maybe, and just add a variation of color once in a while between them so they're not all the same color. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and paint them all the tan color. And we're going to overlap that early stripe, the dark stripe, so that we leave, say, 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit wider than 1/4 inch between them. And you can see it's kind of a sloppy process. Doesn't have to be straight edge. It's kind of there's no straight edges in nature, so I always say, no straight edges should go on your wall either. Once you've got all those columns in, you want to add these nodules, these things between the bamboo sections. See, the picture on the left has those, but they're exaggerated in art in most cases. So we're giving this an opportunity to show shadows and highlights and give some dimension to the bamboo while we're doing it. So that's the process we're after now. We're going to start with painting the shapes. So as you can see, I've got the same color I used originally, and I'm putting a set of these parallel from each other on each piece of bamboo, each shoot. And I'm not worried that they're exactly the same height. I am trying to make sure they don't go diagonal or parallel or in a straight line or anything like that, because we're trying to keep it natural. So try and mix it up a little bit, pay attention to where they're going. And when you're all done, you've got this sloppy mess, which oftentimes the customers go, "What is going on? Why am I paying you for this?" But here's where it all starts to come together. So we've got some dark paint on the brush. We're going to dab the wet parts off. We're going to do what's called dry brushing. We're going to put a little bit of paint underneath that top nodule and underneath the bottom nodule, but then we're going to drag that out. And because the brush is almost dry, it leaves a streak. Bob Ross on TV used to call this 3 hairs and some air. You're not putting a lot of pressure with your brush. You're just trying to show the shadows of these nodules. And so practice a little bit. You don't want to do this straight out on somebody's wall until you've got it right. But essentially you're putting a little dimension on the bamboo. So as you can see, it starts to come together. Still looks really sloppy, but that's not important because it all comes together in the end. And of course, you can be as meticulous as you want along the way. When we're done, even with this type of painting, where I'm not worried about being meticulous, it's going to look like bamboo, and that's the whole purpose. Especially in a mural business. If you're in the mural business, we're not trying to do a painting you'll sell in a museum. This is a mural. So it's not expected to be super well defined. Now we're going to add the highlights, see the yellow arrows. So what we're going to do is take some white and throw a little original tan color or whatever color you were using into that white, but just a little. We don't want it to be stark white. And then you're going to do the opposite we did with the shadows and pull the streaks up and highlight the top edge of that bottom nodule. Here's I'm almost done doing that to this last one here. And then of course the fun begins. once we have all that done, because we're going to get out the old airbrush and bring this thing home. This is always the fun part. So now I've got this airbrush, and we'll talk about the airbrush in a different video. I use a shading gray, which is sort of a watered down ink, if you will, so it doesn't cover completely and allows the color that you're painting on to shine through, but still looks like you're casting a shadow. Doesn't take a whole lot, as I'm showing you there. And I always test, make sure the brush hasn't got a clog in it before I get started on the actual piece. My hands, it washes off your hands real easy. I'm not saying you should do that, but that's how I do it. So the airbrush sprays in a cone shape, as you can see there. And so what we're going to do is, as you come closer to the canvas, that cone gets smaller, and that's where we want to start. We want to get that black area between darker a little bit, and then they come out a little bit each time you go up and down. And the further out you get, the wider that cone gets, and it casts a shadow on both pieces of bamboo. So we're going to take a minute, watch all this come together, and you'll be able to see the difference between the shaded bamboo and the real bamboo. And you'll see what I mean when I say that the sloppy nature of this painting changes completely. So the first three now have shading on them. And you can see the difference if you look at those three and then look at what's left. You can see what the airbrush will do for you. It's a terrific tool, and this whole series is designed to show you how you can use this thing in your regular canvases, and if you're in the mural business, it's absolute necessity in my estimation. I've been doing murals for I don't know how many years now. Done thousands of them, and airbrush gets involved in some capacity in every one of them. So yeah, here's something you've got to try and remember to do on everything you do, and I'm just going to use bamboo to just point it out to you. Bamboo is round, of course, shaped like a PVC pipe, and if it's sitting under a piece of molding, like a chair rail or a windowsill, the windowsill is going to cast a shadow on it. But because we're working on a flat wall, that shadow is just going to be flat, and it doesn't get that appearance of being real. So if you look at this, you can see the center of the bamboo is what's closest to the outside edge of that trim, so there's hardly any shadow there. It's a pencil line. But as it goes back around, that shadow gets deeper because it's further into the wall. So if you paint these arches with your airbrush, a little shading gray in there again, you can make it look as though there's a ledge over top. And whether there's a ledge there or not, it depends on how you want to finish the end of your bamboo. So that's sort of a finishing touch that I didn't go over in my last video when I was doing bamboo, and I wanted to add it into this one. But this video is really so that we can get acquainted, and you can come to know that the future videos in this series are going to have little hints for helping you use an airbrush to do a whole different caliber of work on your murals and your artwork on canvas.